This video will walk you through the steps for creating your master exhibit space. This video is not meant to replace following the directions, but is designed to show you what you will be doing so that when you read the directions, they make sense. This is your goal, to have one master space with 6 additional spaces, and they have a floor and walls and a place for you to write text. I'll walk you through the steps now. When you're logged into CoSpaces, you will click Create CoSpace, choose AR/VR, 3D environment. We are not going to select a background. Our first step is to create our master exhibit space that we will copy. We're going to create a wall. So we'll go to our library and use the cuboid that we drag out. These arrows allow us to change the size. We want to make a wall tall enough to allow us to put photos if we want, and a title towards the top. And rather square. Doesn't have to be exactly square. And make sure it's not too wide. And when we're resizing, these arrows allow us to resize. Now, to get these arrows back anytime, we actually use our translation mode button. So we use the same button to switch between our arrows that allow us to move directions, and if we want to change to increasing our size or decreasing our size, we click that same button, the translation mode. Once we have our wall made, and if you want to see the numbers for measurement, when I'm moving, you can see those little numbers appear. So this one says it's 4.25 wide, and it's 4.13 tall. So not quite square. Well, they're square now. But again, you don't have to be exact, but close. Now, the easiest way to make your floor is to duplicate. We right-click to get our menu and choose Duplicate. We rotate our screen and you will see now you have 2 walls. This one we want to rotate right here so that it's flat. And then now we choose our translation mode so that we can lower it to the ground and move it out so it's lined up at the edge. So now you're going to pick a color for your wall and your floor. Be sure to read on your directions what it says about choosing colors and textures. So we right-click and choose Material to change our color. You can have a texture. You don't want your textures to compete against each other. I think I'm going to go with this one. And I can change the color behind my texture if I want. I kind of like that. Now I'm going to click on my floor and right-click and do the same. This time I think I'm going to go maybe gray. Okay, that works. Now that I have my colors chosen, I'm ready to group my wall and my floor. To group items, you click the first item you want to group, then you hold your Shift key while you click your right item, and I'm still holding my Shift key, and now I'm going to right-click and choose Group. Now they will move as one. Our next step is to add our text panel. That is in the same building section of our library. We drag it out, and we want to get it to the top of our wall. And then we want to change the size. So I'm going to click the translation mode button. I'm going to make it a little taller and a little wider. And you can make it the same size as your wall or a little shorter. And I like to make it a little bit thicker because sometimes I have a hard time getting it to attach exactly without going inside. So this way, it's okay if I squish it in a little. Or in this case, it looks like it's touching the way it is. So now you can group your text panel to your wall and floor. The only thing we have to remember will be that later on when we're editing, we have to ungroup our text panel to change the text. So right now, if I right click on here, I have the ability to change the text and what it says. Once I group it, I lose that ability, but when I ungroup it, I'll get it back. So this is our master exhibit space. We can make it larger. We can make as many as we want. Once we know what we're putting in our exhibit, having these made will help us put everything together quickly. So first I'm going to group. So I'm going to click, not on the text, but in a white space, hold Shift and click, still holding Shift, right click, and group. Now it's time to arrange our space. That's the next section in your directions, where you duplicate and move them around. Since we have our text panel attached, we don't need to do it separately. So I'm just going to right click on my space and choose duplicate. And I'm going to kind of move them back because you want to end up with a fairly organized, arranged space. And you want to make 6 copies, plus you have your master. So that means a total of 7 will be on your space. All right, so now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and here is 7. And later on, when we're ready to edit, we might choose to resize and make them larger if we need. And we have to ungroup that sign. To do that, we will click on our text panel and then right click on our text panel. And once you choose ungroup, you should be able to click on them separately. There we go. So now when I right click on my text panel, I have the option to change the text. But we'll worry about that when we're ready to add our information. Once you're finished, you can click the home button and move on to your next activity.